Happy 2023, Fan Clan. It is finally here. The new year has finally come. I hope you guys all had a wonderful, wonderful new year. I hope you did something fun, celebrated a little bit, spent time with family, friends. I hope you were safe. Let me know in the comments section what you all did. I'm really excited for 2023. We have a lot in store for you. We're going to give more product away than ever. We're giving away 3 booster boxes of V-Star Universe. These right here. All you have to do is go back, watch the video that I just posted on Friday about Evolving Skies sealed product for your chance to win one. Enter to win. Watch the video. That's pretty much all you have to do. I think you have to leave a comment, and that's it. And we are going to do our darndest to help you accomplish your collection goals. That's really important to me. I want to help as many people accomplish their collection goals, their grail, their dreams, as much as I possibly can in 2023. So to do that, we started a new server or a new channel in our Discord server. I'm going to leave the link down in the description below. If you're not a member of our Discord, make sure to join that. All of us working together, I think we can knock off a lot of collection goals this year, so I'm really excited about that. We're going to talk about Evolving Skies from a singles market. If you remember, a few months ago I recorded a video, and I'm not one for conspiracy theories, but I do know, based on talking to people in the past, that there are buyout groups when it comes to buying specific cards. We saw this happen. We saw the market get manipulated with full art supporters. That was a couple years ago where a ton of full art supporters got bought out and repriced at ridiculous prices, and then we saw it happen with other singles, other sealed product really badly throughout the pandemic. But market manipulation and buyouts have been happening for years, especially when it comes to competitive play. We had issues with Paralyzing Gaze Zorua because it was super competitive. There were a lot of different trainer staple cards that kind of got bought out at different points in time, so that way they could be relisted at much higher price points. And we recorded a video about Evolving Skies singles about 3 months ago or so now, and I kind of talked about market manipulation at that point in time and what I thought was going on with a lot of these Evolving Skies alternate art. So we're going to kind of look at those and see. A lot of them have dropped about 10%. A lot of it really makes me think that whole theory about market manipulation and buyouts is actually a very accurate statement. And I know a lot of people think that alt arts are like the gold stars of the modern era, and I'm not going to say that you are wrong. However, I can tell you that a few years ago, I was buying gold stars at events on eBay for $50, $60, $70 a piece if you want to talk about the Entei, the Raikou, and the Suicune. Maybe $100 for Kyogre and Groudon, maybe $300 for a Charizard. They were much cheaper than what they've been over the past couple of years because of the pandemic, because of everything that's gone on with people getting back into Pokemon. So to see a card like the alternate art Umbreon VMAX going for $500, $600, to me it didn't make sense. It just didn't add up. And I know pull rates are different. For a gold star, for example, you're going to get a gold star pretty much 1 out of every 72 packs, every 2 boxes, whereas a alternate art, you're looking at a much higher pull rate. An alternate art regular one's going to be about 1 out of every 93 packs, where an alternate art VMAX, a secret rare alternate art, is like 1 out of every 285 packs or something ridiculous like that. However, I think people are grossly underestimating the amount of Pokemon cards that are printed now than were printed like during the Delta species era, for example. There were so many less Pokemon cards printed at that point in time. You had pretty much one wave of like Delta species, and it lasted a very long time because there just wasn't the demand for Pokemon back then as what there is now. Whereas we've had 4 print runs of Evolving Skies, not to mention the amount of ancillary product that they produce now is way different and more excessive than what we saw during the Gold Star era, because you have 3-pack blisters, you have check lane blisters, you have single pack boosters, sleeve boosters, you have all these collection boxes, you have booster bundles, you have build and battle kits, you have build and battle stadiums. There is just so much more product that is produced now, different ancillary options, way more packs. So the likelihood of more alternate arts existing than what we saw of gold stars is very possible, especially the amount of gold stars, the amount less of gold stars than what we would see from a lot of these alternates. I think it's an excessive. I think a lot of people don't understand. I don't think they understand how many more cards cards are printed, how many more alternate arts are probably in existence now, and the amount of time that it took for those gold stars to mature to that point is very crazy. So we're going to flip you over so you can see what I'm talking about. We're going to start off just by going over a couple of Evolving Skies sealed product in case you didn't want to watch the Friday video, but just to kind of get a feel for what Evolving Skies is looking like from a sealed market right now. You have the booster box, which continues to climb, right now sitting at $282.30. We're going back the past year of data. $286.26 was its high, which it hit at the end of December before coming down just a few dollars, but you can see where it was last January. Once we had that fourth print run of Evolving Skies booster boxes come out in July, it went back down to MSRP before skyrocketing. Now, who knows if they will reprint it again. The Elite Trainer box also got a massive reprint. That was in August of 2022, where it dropped all the way down to $43.64, which was basically a one-year low for this product before shooting back up. You can still kind of find these every once in a while in the wild, but it is increasingly difficult. The Evolving Skies booster packs, much more organic growth because they are getting more limited. They're not in as many of those ancillary products like what we were talking about. You don't see as many 3-pack boosters or sleeve boosters out there. They do occasionally pop up, but not often do you find Evolving Skies really in collection boxes that are newly released, like the Paldea collections that are coming out next week, or a lot of the more recent collection boxes that have just come out. So a high point of $659, right around that 1 year, and that's right around a 1 year high for it, where it's sitting right now at $637. So very close. You'll probably continue to see this kind of spike up a little bit more and more with sealed product. However, when we look at singles, a lot of these singles starting to come back down a little bit. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens over the next couple months now, especially because still a lot of Evolving Skies packs being open. So that is going to impact the market. But you can see the Umbreon VMAX hit a high point in November. And a lot of these cards that we're going to look at kind of hit the high point at the same time. And it's not only Evolving Skies that hit these high points in November. It's alternate arts pretty much across Sword and Shield. A lot of the VMAXs and a lot of the Vs, a lot more chase cards, which is what a lot of buyout groups would kind of focus more on, the cards that would be more in demand. So you see a high point of $577.24. That was in November. Now it's come back down to earth. It's dropped over 10% in the last couple months, down to $495.77, but still way up from where it was in January of 2022 when it was $186.70. Can you imagine if you would have bought like 100 copies of Umbreon VMAX back in January, right around that $186 price point, how much it's matured? You can see it took off a little bit in March before leveling off all the way until August before shooting up again, leveling off for about a month, and then really skyrocketing up to that $577 mark. However, PSA 10s, there are a ton of PSA 10 Umbreon VMAXs, and they're not selling for that much higher than what a raw near mint copy is selling for. They are selling for higher, but not leaps and bounds higher like what you would expect to see from a collector standpoint. The Rayquaza VMAX, not a whole lot of difference here. Dropped about 10% over the last couple months. You can see its high point of $311.40, which it hit in the beginning of November also before coming back down, sitting at $288.38 currently. However, if you look at its 1 year low in January of 2022, there was one point in time where Rayquaza VMAX and Umbreon VMAX were flipped, where the Rayquaza was actually a little bit more expensive than the Umbreon VMAX. Those days are long gone. You can see a spike over there in March before coming back down a little bit all the way up until August. It stayed very consistent all the way until September before shooting up, and now over that $300 mark you can see for the high. Like I said, coming back down to earth a little bit, $288.38, but definitely dropping backwards. Glacian VMAX, no different here as well, sitting at $159.81 currently, so another 10% drop over the last couple months. You can see in January of 2022 was below $100, $80.86, and it started creeping up until March before it leveled off a little bit. You can see a little dip right there in July. That's where that reprint happened. That's where we got those new booster boxes, that fourth print wave of Evolving Skies that hit the market, then started to climb up very slowly until September, October again, where it shot up at the beginning of November, where it hit a 1 year high of $180.77. Very cool looking card. Don't get me wrong, I love these alternate arts. I love the alternate arts as much as the next person. But some of these numbers, when you see the spikes, it's very, very suspicious to see where it's spiking, when it's spiking, and how it's spiking. If we look at the Sylveon VMAX, $87.80 is a 1 year low. It hit that in January. It actually took off extremely well up until June, where you can see that's where it actually hit a 1 year high. So this is a little bit different than the other ones that we looked at. It jumped up to $160.23 before backing off a little bit. And this made a lot more sense with the reprint that came in July. We thought, okay, well, maybe this is going to impact the market a little bit, even though the reprint wasn't huge, but then it stayed consistent through July, through August, and then September hit and it started climbing like what we saw for the other ones. It got close to that $160 mark, but never hit that 1 year high again, and now it's backed off a little bit. It's sitting right around that $135 mark, so it's dropped closer to that 20% total over the last 2 months, definitely trending downwards compared to what it was. Dragonite V seems to be a little bit of an outlier here because it does continue to rise, and I think a lot of that is just because of the artwork on this card. A lot of people love this card. It has steadily grown a lot more organically than what we've seen from a lot of other cards. Granted, it is an alternate art V compared to as opposed to an alternate art VMAX. You can see it's 1 year low of 65.95. This one kind of trades places a lot with the Rayquaza V and the Umbreon V, but the Dragonite V, the most expensive of them right now, sitting at 101.16, which is right around its 1 year high of 102.70. It's never been a $100 card until the last couple months, but I think a lot of that has to do with just demand for this artwork because people do love it so much. 65.95, its low point in January before taking off in March, and then kind of steadily staying at the same spot all the way up until September. Again, like what we saw with a lot of other alternate arts, before shooting up, but then it also had another additional spike at the end of November, beginning of December, where it crossed that $100 barrier. If we look at the Rayquaza V, no different than what we've seen. It's backed off a lot now, dropped about 10% over the last month and a half or so. You can see it actually was right around a 1 year low in September before it shot up overnight. 71.87 is where it was sitting. It was right around $75 at the beginning of the year, started growing a little bit, maybe organically up until June before backing off a little bit. It hit about $85. Then we got that decent sized reprint, really impacted it, and it went all the way down to that 71.87 marker before shooting up in November, like what we saw from a lot of these other ones. It hit 104.56 before coming back down. Now it's down to $93.30. Very close to the Umbreon V, which also has a similar trajectory, similar pattern. You can see this one actually hit a 1 year low in January, however, where it was down to $77.12 before shooting up a little bit, got about to $92, $93, stayed consistently at that for a couple months until June hit, then it went down, and then you see another valley there in August right after the reprint kind of came out, where it got really close to that 1 year low of $77 before shooting up a little bit, and then coming down a little bit, and then shooting up like crazy overnight, where we saw this all of a sudden out of nowhere. Umbreon V is a very expensive card. It jumped, 20%, 30% overnight, where it hit that 1 year high of 103.75. Now it's backed off a little bit, dropped 10%, and now it's sitting at 92.99. The Espeon V, very similar pattern. It started its climb a little bit earlier. You see in July, once the reprint hit, it actually started climbing a little bit, so it was very consistent throughout the beginning of 2022 for the first half of the year. It hit 49.78 as a low point in July when that reprint hit, but it started the year right around that $55 mark. So only about a $6 difference, only about a 10% difference for the first 6 months of 2022 before really taking off. And then in November, like what we saw with the other ones, it hit its peak of $91.17. Now it's lost about $15, closer to that 20% mark over the last couple months, where it dropped from $91 to $75.33 currently. So again, it'll be interesting to see how these kind of play out over the next few months, especially if Evolving Skies gets a decent size reprint. We might see some decent drops in a lot of these, where we might see another 20-25% in the downward direction. Glaceon V, this one hit a 1 year low in July, also a 47.89. That was right around the time the reprint happened. It did hit $65 in March and then started going down a little bit to that 1 year low before spiking in November, like what we saw with the other ones. It hit $76.48. This one looked like it was going to do a similar pattern from what we've seen as far as the drop over the last few months. However, it didn't. It dropped down about 10% and then kind of took off, shot up right away again, sitting at $75.06 currently, so very close to its 1 year high. Then we've got the Leafeon V. This one followed a similar pattern as what we saw with the first several. It dropped all the way down to about $50 at the beginning of the year before going up to closer to that $65 mark, then backed off a lot, hit that 1 year low of $49.24 in June, right around the time the reprint hit. Started organically slowly growing until November hit and then took off like a rocket overnight, hit a 1 year high of $74.09 before backing off a little bit. Now it's sitting at $67.14. You're looking at about a 20% drop over the last couple months. The Sylveon V, also a pretty similar pattern pattern to the Leafeon V. In January of 2022, it hit a 1-year low of $49.74 before jumping up to that $65 mark, then slowly started working its way back down to a 1-year low until the reprint hit, and then the reprint hit, and it took off again. It's jumped up, went down, jumped off at the beginning of November again, right around the time that we're talking about, where it seems like all of these alternate arts all of a sudden just kind of jumped up out of nowhere, hit a 1-year high of 72.02, then it dropped 10% and sitting at 65.63 currently. I think this is the last one, the Noivern V. We're not looking at the Duraludons because they are relatively cheaper. They didn't see the pattern that a lot of these other cards did see, where they spiked overnight. You can see this one very consistent pretty much throughout the entirety of 2022, right around that $30 mark, $28 at the beginning of the year, all the way through until September. October hit, and then it took off like crazy, had a huge jump in October, huge jump in November, jumped all the way up to that $41.42 mark. Now it hasn't dropped quite 10% over the last couple months, but it has come back a little bit, sitting at $39.61 currently. So it'll be interesting to see where Noivern and a lot of these other alternate arts go in the next couple months. Definitely let me know what you think in the comment section down below. One thing we do know is that if a reprint does come, you can expect these cards to drop at least a little bit moving forward, and it'll be interesting to see how more and more Evolving Skies just continues to get open. People love to crack Evolving Skies, which makes it very difficult. We're going to look at Hidden Fates on Tuesday, and I feel like Evolving Skies follows a lot of those patterns there, where it's going to be very difficult because there is this vast amount of quantities, this vast supply that's out there. A lot of gold stars matured way later on because a lot of them got just played poorly, poor conditioned. They got beat up. They didn't get put in binders properly because we didn't take care of our cards back then like what we do now. There wasn't really a collector market as much back then as there is now. There was a lot of people who were big into collecting, invested heavily into collecting, and a lot of people did benefit from protecting their cards properly, but people didn't pay the amount of attention that they play now, and the competition for collecting cards is way different now than what it was back then. So it'll be very interesting to see how Evolving Skies continues to grow throughout 2023, but I wanted to look at singles for our first video of the year because I do think a lot of this kind of shows the possibility and the likelihood of buyouts happening when it comes to those alternate arts. So I think if you're patient, the best thing that you can do when it comes to Pokemon is always be patient. Don't get out of the game. Maybe take a break. Maybe stop buying packs. Maybe stop ripping cards. Maybe stop focusing on collecting or purchasing your dream card. Just keep in the game, keep in the hobby, keep watching research and things like that, learn, and then maybe get back into it when you see things kind of get back to the point where you want them to be. It's all very interesting how it all kind of unfolds. But guys, thank you so much for taking the time to watch the video. I hope you had a really good 2022. I hope your 2023 is going to be even better. Join the Discord down below. We will see you again on Tuesday. Until then, peace.